Hi, I'm Dave. This is the Cyderbaby pod, and today I'm talking to Reckless Love. Hello.
Hello there.
How
Thanks
you?
for having me.
No problem whatsoever. You're looking well. You've just released a new album.
Yes, we did last Friday, actually. Turborider is the name, and it's been a long time coming.
Yeah. What happened? 2016 was it the last album?
Yeah, well, we toured for 2 years after the last album. That was called Invader, by the way. And yeah, the tour, it was the longest, the biggest tour we had done so far. So 2 years, and 2 years after that, we realized that Jesus Christ, we've been on tour for more or less 8 years, like on and off the road all the time. So like off to the studio, make an album, let's go back on the road without a real proper kind of pause from it or a break from it. So we decided to take a sabbatical, and we designed the break to be like a year, maybe year and a half. So it ended up being a year and a half. And by the latter part of 2019, we already started coming back. We were on the stage at Bach Festival, and we did a few shows here and there in Finland. And for 2020, we had booked the 10-year anniversary tour for our debut album, and that was going to be a massive tour. Basically, we started it. We began touring from Australia. We did 3 out of the 5 shows in Australia. We were supposed to go to Japan, do Europe, UK, Finland, of course, Latin America. So, there was quite a lot of shows that we had booked already. But you know what happened on 2020? It was a minor thing called pandemic. So our sabbatical, instead of a year and a half, became 4 years. And here I am at my home office, at the corner of the home office, still postponing tours and record releases because of the COVID.
Well, you're supposed to be headlining Call of the Bar Festival in May.
Yeah.
So fingers crossed.
Oh yeah, I mean, we've had our fingers crossed. We've knocked on wood so many times, and I mean, 2 years into the pandemic, I still don't believe. I'm not like 100% believer in any show until I hear the intro tape go on. That's when I believe, okay, I'm ready to believe it's gonna happen. But yeah, we've postponed the tour, we've postponed every show, even the record release, for so many times now. So it feels stupid, but I'm really confident that the world has come to the conclusion that we need to learn how to live with the coronavirus.
Yeah.
And it's stupid to keep things closed all the time.
Let's go back to the album. We were talking about 80s memorabilia just before we went live, and you mentioned that your album was more 80s than the actual 80s themselves. I mean, tell me about the album. Come on, just give me a rundown.
Well, that was the vision, basically. I mean, we said it jokingly, of course, but that was kind of like the starting point for us. When the lockdown started, the only thing we could do basically at home, we couldn't even see each other. So your only true friends, like, as for us musical nerds, were our records. And that's how I spent my lockdown, basically. I just, dug into some new music, but of course, you always go back to the first ones, the first influences that influenced you first. That's kind of like the most important thing. You're never gonna forget those. I mean, you mentioned Scorpions, and I bet that you still at some point you're gonna put on some Scorpion songs.
Oh, you know what? Just before lockdown 2019, it was a Scorpions fest because Bloodstock Festival. Scorpions were the first band I ever saw. I was 15 at the time in 1984. And I'd never seen them obviously before, but I hadn't seen them since that time in 84. And Bloodstock Festival had them as headliners on the Sunday. And me and my mate, we were there with like little fanboys at the front, saying, this is brilliant. And then not only that, Yuli John Roth came touring at Camden as well. We went up to see him as well. So it was complete. 2019 was completely Scorpions.
Well, there you go. There you go. I mean, for me, it was Van Halen, 1984, Jump.
Yeah.
I remember when I first heard it, it was at a hockey game. Well, of course, I'm Finnish, so it's kind of like football here.
Yeah.
So everybody goes into a hockey game. I must have been like 6 years old when I first heard it. And of course, 5150 came right after that. There's David Lee Roth's Skyscraper album, one of the first songs I ever remember hearing and like thinking that, okay, this must be the thing called rock and roll. Like really like a small child sitting on the back of my dad's brown 80s Volvo eating an ice cream, and Just Like Paradise comes on the radio.
Oh yeah.
And those are pretty much the first influences that I ever had from rock and roll. And I was a perfect age for the second coming of the arcade halls, and that's where I listened to a lot of the stuff that I grew up listening to. Judas Priest is there. They're the best album in my opinion, of course, is Turbo, and it's the Turborider name. And it was also a turning point for the band. They used quite a lot of synthesizers and a funny way of distorting guitars as well. It sounded pretty weird compared to what it used to be. And Billy Idol's whole career basically is still like one of the most played songs on my Spotify list. Is still Billy Idol. And we've got these sequence synthesizers as well there. And that's pretty much like where it started. But of course we wouldn't want to do anything that that was already done like almost 40 years ago. So Reckless Love still needs to be 2022. And we had to we didn't want it to be like a pure nostalgia trip. So we decided that is it possible to make, because the mid to late 80s is such a crazy, insane period of time in rock music, with the electric drums, with the the overuse of synthesizers. And of course, the hair got bigger and, even bigger than before. The choruses got even bigger than before. And, Def Leppard's Hysteria, it sounds so plastic, kind of, And we grew up listening to that. That was the first influence. And we kind of like, is it possible to turbocharge it? Is it possible to lift that up to the insanity? Is it possible to, take a step up? Can we turn that to 11? Do a Spinal Tap thing on that? We didn't believe it was possible, but apparently it is.
Yes.
We needed the, so that's why the album sounds more 80s than the 80s.
It's absolutely fantastic. I was listening to it earlier, and I do love it. And I've been playing. I've got a radio show, and I've been playing Bach of the Moon as well. You did a fantastic cover of that, and
thanks very much.
And as you said, you go back and you listen to Ozzy now, or the Bach of the Moon CD, and it loses that little bit of production, just a little bit. And you've brought the cover has just brought it bang out of date. And I'm really impressed with that. You've done well. You haven't. You've kept the essence of the song but not destroyed its soul at the same time.
And that was the whole, that was the whole goal, basically. That's for, the cover was like the easy way of showing it, or, kind of like, here we go. This is the cover. Everybody knows how Bark at the Moon, sounds. How does the original sound? But it's an easy way to actually, it's an easy access for people to get to know what's the sound of the Turborider album, because it gives you a reference point, and how different it is from the original 1984 version, and
something like that,
I think it's 1983. And still 2022, what would it be the point of making it exactly the same, because that's a classic, perfect heavy metal song as it is, one of the most iconic songs, and I'm a huge Ozzy fan, and it was pretty difficult. I mean, I wasn't ready to do the cover. It was our producer's idea, and he really had to convince me. but I'm glad that he did, because it turned out really, really nice. And he had a good point. The riff actually, it has the same rhythmic quality as the modern synthwave influence. That's how we made it 2022, and that was something that I was really into even before doing the album. And that's that underground genre, kind of like it has the it draws the influences from the same exact period and uses the same type of sounds, but it's modern, mainly instrumental music and dance music, maybe, or electronic music. Well, I don't know what it is, but you know, it still shares something in, you know, something with the 80s metal. And you know, I just saw a common ground there. And same thing for our producer, and he just came up with the idea because the riff is like the perfect sequenced kind of, you know, sequence rhythm for the synthesizers. And of course, to use the electric drums on it sounded so crazy, and it sounded pretty much sounded like a sacrilege for me. But then when we tried it out, we was like, Jesus Christ, this is cool. This is kind of like my Miami Vice version of Bark at the Moon. This werewolf is not howling in the woods of Finland. This is more like somewhere around the South Beach area or something like that.
Okay. Did I read somewhere that you've done quite a nice little package of the new album as well? You've got a game as well, is that right?
Yeah, yeah, we did. Talking about the memorabilia, and
yeah,
because I'm a sucker for good merchandise, and I'm a big, you know, I spend a lot of my money on different like merchandise by different bands, my favorite bands usually. Sometimes I even buy cool stuff from bands that I don't like necessarily listen to that much, but you know, if it's just cool stuff and it looks good, you know, I gotta have it. But you know, I've got like 10 of Guns, like the Appetite for Destruction t-shirts, all kinds of 80s bands. I mean, Ozzy came up with the 35th anniversary edition of the Ultimate Sin album and the merchandise to it last year. I think I spent like 200 euros, like immediately just on t-shirts.
Wow. I could say that there's,
you know, and
80s bandana probably going on eBay very soon.
all right. Maybe I need to be aware. Yeah, but yeah, it's a, you know, that's how it's kind of like a hobby of mine, and you know, I keep collecting stuff from the 80s. Same thing with the sounds of the album. But when I mentioned the fact that everybody in the band was the perfect age for the second coming of the arcade halls, and you know, and we also had the pocket devices. It was the era of the Game Boy, basically.
Yeah.
And you know, Game Boy was kind of like that was the peak of the handheld devices. But yeah, there were other ones as well. I remember my first one. It was Nintendo's Donkey Kong.
Yeah,
you know, it had a, you know, it opened up like this, and you know, and our record company came up with the idea that, hey, why not make a handheld device that's got your band logo on it? And you know, we know a manufacturer who does this, and they got like the console doesn't have just one game like in the 80s. Now it's got like 150 games inside. And you know, we was like, that would be the coolest thing ever. And of course we did it. And you know, that's you know, that I love that.
That's brilliant. Okay, so business end of things, gigging. We've mentioned Call of the Wild Festival. What is occurring that we can talk about that has been cancelled by the dreaded C word?
Well, everything luckily has been just postponed right now, so we haven't, you know, we haven't cancelled anything. Let's knock on wood.
Yeah,
and keep our fingers crossed that we don't have to. But yeah, the European tour that was supposed to happen this spring is now postponed until the end of. It starts at the end of August in the UK, and we're going to tour the whole of Europe right after that in September.
Yeah,
and there's plenty of festivals here in Finland. Hopefully, they will happen. We just came out with the Australian dates. We are supporting Skid Row, our from our neighboring country, Sweden. They have a new singer called Eric Grönwall from used to sing for Heat Sweden. That'll be an awesome little tour in Australia as well, and to actually go there again, because we kind of like started from there in 2020. it's fun to go back. And yeah, that's in December. There's quite a lot of shows coming up next year as well, so but I really can't talk about those yet because they're not public. But yeah, there's Monsters of Rock cruise coming in the US. And yeah, once we are on that side of the world, there is going to happen something there, but that's the stuff that I can't talk about yet.
Okay, no worries. I will
yeah,
see
it's
you
going to be
Corner
great.
of the Wild.
Oh
So
yeah,
I'll
awesome.
I'll make sure I'll buy you a beer. But thank you for your
Thanks very
time.
much.
And
Thank you.
we'll all go out and buy the games console and have a good bit of 80s fun.
Yeah, and do buy the different colored vinyl versions as well, because those are cool. And let me tell you, if you have the record, you're listening to it, people have been. I love the fact that people hate it so much, because somebody is like, it is either or. I mean, people either love it, there's Reckless Love is back, oh, there's this sound, this is the coolest thing ever, and somebody's like, oh fuck, this sounds so plastic, this is nothing like the old Reckless. But come to see us at the Call of the Wild Festival. You'll think differently after that, because the new songs fucking rule live. We already did the tour rehearsal. I had shivers all over. It's gonna sound awesome. And it's weird. It's a weird combination, because we do have the electric drums with us. We are bringing all of the keyboards. And of course, Pepe still has his Marshall waltz. So it's going to be loud, old school heavy metal still, but it's just like, added with some stuff. So it's going to be crazy.
Okay. Thank you for your time, Olli. It's been wonderful to
Thank
speak
you.
to you, and I shall see you soon.
Yeah. Thanks, Dave. See ya.